Right. Welcome, guys, to another Money Mini Tips. Just to recap, last couple of videos, if you haven't watched those, the links are in the description. We talked about relative and absolute cell references. We talked about some if and some ifs in the last video. And now we're going to do count if and count ifs. Yeah. Sometimes we just want to count stuff. So let's get right into it. So let me go to my data. I'm going to hide my sum if and sum if play area. Let me come to this and just hide some more. So, right. So when we typically use count when we're trying to count 8 counts or trying to count a number of times something appear in Excel, right? So you know, it's quite useful when you just want to count the number of stuff, number of cells, number of items and stuff like that. So count is quite good. You just don't want to sum it. You just want to count how many times they appear in the file. So I've used it so many times. You know, lots of my formulas where I'm counting things and cells and servers and stuff like that is count. Most importantly, we use it for 8 count, right? So now we want to count if 8 count marketing, right? Department. Want to see how many. Well, I want to see how many 8 count for each of the departments there are. So what we'll do is we're gonna start off by just doing the formula simply. So let's count if. So if you start typing the formula, it'll give you all kinds of stuff. You want count if, you spell it quite nicely. So what you want is the first criteria is the range. This is quite simply one column, right? So the range would be department. So I'm going to click on all my department range, and then make sure you lock it. Absolute lock. Guys, this is key. If you don't lock your cell, if you don't know how to relative and absolute lock cells, your formulas will always go wrong when you're dragging across the spreadsheet. You don't want to be repeating the same formulas in different cells. So get it right first time, lock it, and then you're ready to move on. Anyways, so now we've got a range. We want a criteria. So our criteria will be in R13. So I'm going to click on R13. I don't know why it's just doing it. So I'm going to put comma and then R13. Sometimes you can't see what you're doing, but make sure it's pointing at R13. Let me just make sure this, I'll come back to that. Now, how do I lock this? I'm going to lock so that my column is fixed. So I'm going to lock. I'm going to put $ outside. So that fixes my column. That means that my rows are ready to move or flexible or relative, so they can move as I drag that formula down. So that's enter. That's 7 8 count for marketing. If I drag it down, let me drag it down now, right? So you find that formula moves accordingly. You've got 4 each for each of the other departments. You've got your 19 8 count, which nicely, you know, adds up to 19. So that's fine. So that's simply COUNTIF. Now you want to, you've got two criteria now. You want to count department, you want to count gender as well. So what you do is, let's just count these 2 criteria now. So now if you start off with your formula again, equals to count ifs, so S at the end of that if, and then the first criteria range, the second criteria range, the second criteria. So the first criteria range will be our department. So we'll start off with the farthest to the left. So I'm going to start off with the department. Excuse me. So we've got this now. What do? We lock it down. Make sure you lock it down. Lock it down so it does not move, right? So any range of yours has to be locked down. Lock down your range. So now we've got the range locked down. We want to specify what that criteria is. So we'll come here and click on R13. And now what we want to do, we want to lock down. You want to make sure that when you drag the formulas across, it doesn't move, because you don't want your department is all in R, so you don't want that to move. So we're locking down the column. So you put a $sign outside of the column R, so lock down that column. The rows are flexible and relative and movable. So that is the first criteria, lock down. You put a comma after that, after the facts, after specifying your criteria. Now we're going to find the second criteria range, which will be gender. So we select from the range 3 to 21. Make sure that it stays the same. Make sure your range are all fixed and balances and the same as your other criteria, right? So criteria range, so make sure it's all the same. So 3 to 21 we're looking for. We want to make sure that we fix this completely. Fix. So now we've fixed that criteria range. We want to specify what that criteria is. The criteria is gender. So you've got your gender up on top. So we can, if you press on that, and then what we want to lock it, we want to lock down the rows so that when the formula gets dragged down, the rows does not move, but the column can be moved, because we're going to move from male to female as we drag it across. So now we're going to put, what am I doing? I'm going to put the $sign next to the 12, which is the row 12, right? So the row 12 does not move, and that stays fixed, but the column can be moved as we drag the formula around. So that's why you make sure that you can see that I've mixed, that the first criteria I'm looking at vertically, and the second criteria is horizontally. So make sure you're locking them as you depict, right? So that your formulas will be right when you drag up and down. So enter. You finish your formula. You can drag this either any way you want. So drag it down first, and then I'm going to drag it across, and then you can see your formulas changes as you drag. You can make sure you run a quick check. I always check my formulas. Make sure you check it. You can even come here. Make sure when you click on that, it makes sure it's highlighting what that intersection is, right? So it's female for support, looking at those two ranges and counting as those two criteria meet together, how many there are in that space, right? So that's all there is for COUNTIFs. To recap, some of the key tricks here is make sure your range, your criteria range are the same, and you don't have any wonky ranges. If it's 3 to 21, 3 to 21 should be across all your range, your criteria range. With this also, the other trick is to make sure that you're locking in your columns and your rows as you see fit, right? But this is a very useful formula. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you liked that. I hope this is one you can add to your catalog of Excel formulas. You can use with ease, and you can use in all scenarios. So do like, subscribe, and come back for some more. This was many tips. And lastly, what I want to do before we say au revoir is I'm going to extract this to out. So extract, that's it. I hope you're observing my striking skills also, in case you need to do that. Then that's also a mini tip. So Hope you're taking that on board. Right, so this was Manni Mini Tips. We've covered COUNTIF and COUNTIFs, and I hope to see you in the next video. We're going to be looking at VLOOKUPs and HLOOKUPs before we get into some if statements, and some pivot tables. Stay tuned, come back, do like, subscribe, and turn on your notification to get notified for when the next video comes out. Yeah, au revoir. This was Manni Mini Tips. See ya.